Case. It's definitely welcome news for a lot of people. Natisha Lands gives us perspective on how did we get here with a recap of the last 40 years.
Between 1979 and 1981, more than 24 African Americans were killed or missing, most of them children and male between the ages of 9 and 28 years old. One child vanished after another, never seen alive again. Their bodies found across metro Atlanta, strangled, suffocated. The first two discovered on August 7, 1979. By August the following year, the bodies of 7 more victims were found. 3 months later, the FBI joined the investigation. But a break would not come in the case until April 22, 1981, when a police recruit heard a splash in the Chattahoochee River as Wayne Williams was driving his station wagon across the bridge. 2 days later, the body of Nathaniel Cater shows up downstream. Williams is arrested on Father's Day 1981, charged with Cater's murder, and eventually indicted for his death, as well as the killing of another adult male. 23-year-old Williams was found guilty in 1982 for both killings. He's now serving 2 life sentences. Prosecutors ultimately tied Williams to the deaths of 22 victims through carpet fiber evidence and witnesses. The cases were closed without putting him on trial. Not everyone believed his guilt. There were doubters.
I don't believe Wayne Williams did it. I really don't believe that he did it.
In 2005, DeKalb County Police Chief Louis Graham reopened 5 cases in his jurisdiction, but nothing to exonerate Williams came from it.